All right, we're going to start our leg day on the floor on our back, finding that nice neutral spine, keeping the ribs down and the tummy flat. Your legs are on the ball, and we're going to start just rolling the ball in towards your bum. Remember that the more leg that is on the ball, the easier it is. You can also keep your hips down to start if you're feeling that it's a little off and your legs are moving around. The whole point of the SI program is to keep the hips solid. So using a block in between the knees is awesome and excellent to keep it nice and stable. It just feels a little bit awkward sometimes because your feet will tend to move in a different direction, but making sure we're pulling in with those feet and pressing through with those heels. Next, we're going to move on to grabbing the ball gently with the insides of the ankles and the feet, keeping the knees directly straight up so your hips are at 90 degrees. Your low back will flatten here. You're keeping the shoulders relaxed and you're keeping the abdomen down and compressed. We're not going to overly press the low back in. We're just going to keep it in a neutral. Pretend that your tailbone is falling through the floor. You can even hold the legs if you need. If you feel that your legs are getting tired and you're using too much hip flexor, absolutely feel free to hold the legs, but make sure that you're keeping those knees apart and that knee stays directly over top of that second toe from the big toe. So the second toe in. So you're not letting your knees come in, we're letting them come out. And we're going to gently hold the legs if you need. We're doing 2 sets of 10 or to 12 to 15 repetitions. Then you're going to gently place with your knees hip width apart. The ball is on top of the shins, so we're keeping it in that tabletop position. The back doesn't change from the last exercise. We're keeping it stable but not compressed, tailbone staying long, spine staying straight, making sure that you're inhaling as you drop those legs away and exhaling as you pull it back in to just recompress those abdominal muscles around that spine, keeping the shoulder blades back and down, pressing the ribs and the abdomen in, keeping it nice and light. Then doing this one without a mat, we're just going to gently lift the head about a millimeter off the floor, keep the legs unmoving, and you're going to move that upper body towards that lower, and we're kind of coming to meet in the middle. So without a mat, you glide a lot easier. Moving into the articulating glute lift. So you're starting all the way up and then rolling all the way down, one vertebrae at a time, keeping the block between the knees. The feet are turned out to whatever way you feel comfortable, but you're inhaling as you come up. Inhale through that vertebrae, and then you're rolling down, exhaling one vertebrae at a time all the way down until that glute is unactive and your tailbone falls heavy. We're going to keep on repeating this, really listening to the spine, getting to be one with your breath to make sure that you're maximizing the effort in the glutes, the contraction in the inner thigh, and the contract, relax in that hammock. It's so, so crucial. Just make sure every once in a while you check in with your shoulders to keep those relaxed as well. You're going to do your 2 sets of 12. And then you can superset this exercise with the previous oblique exercise. So it's a really good dynamic core workout for both. Next, we're going to move on, keeping the glutes up in shoulder bridge. You can actually triple set these if you want. You're just going to do a little gentle heel lift. So you're keeping your shoulders down. You're keeping your abdomen flat. You're not letting your lower back arch. Keeping the glutes contracted and that 10% of that inner thigh engagement and that 20-30 hammock is in contraction the whole time. You're breathing out as you lift that leg and just seeing what happens, and we're trying to lift that heel as high as we can without getting movement in that SI joint. So it's just teaching your body to be able to move your legs without so much movement in that SI. Then we're going to go to a nice gentle hip flexor stretch. Remember, when we're doing this, it's a modified happy baby. You're pulling in. You can do percussive breaths here, nice big 8 to 10 breaths. You can roll in one direction and then a couple breaths in the other. You can just go shimmy, floss back and forth, keeping that tailbone nice and long. We're going to roll up into a boat pose. We're just holding those legs wherever you feel more comfortable. So the advance would be legs straight. If you need to shorten that lever, you would bend the knees. And you're holding it here with your chest high. You can advance the pose with hands overhead and just moving if you want. But if you want to stay isometric, meaning not moving in this pose, you can as well. And just listening to your breath and keeping that control in your upper thoracic spine and your lower abs. Just figuring out where it feels good for you. Rolling like a ball should feel good. It shouldn't be clunky or hurt. And so we just want to gently go back and forth with our breath, finishing it off with just a forward fold, trying to keep that chest open as we forward fold, toes flexed and knees gently together. Always a nice place to do a little bit of a back extension because it's safe. You won't hyperextend. You can even open that throat chakra. Coming up into this shoulder bridge, making sure my fingers are pressed in, my neck is back, and I'm keeping my abs nice and straight. Last but not least is our good old Superwoman in our upper back area. We already did lower. So now we're keeping our toes pointed. The block is between, a little bit higher than the knee to keep that glute and inner thigh active. You're going to keep one hand on top of the other, and you're going to breathe out as you lift up through your head, lifting the elbows off the floor. Good. Inhaling as you set that abdomen like I could slide a sheet of paper, making sure you're only lifting as high as you're not letting all that abdomen collapse into the floor. You're keeping some integrity and trying to grow space between the vertebrae as you activate those upper back muscles, right? Front a little bit below the bra strap and up. So we're going to be doing 12 to 15 breaths here. It can get quite exhausting, so make sure between the two exercises you take a good break. The next exercise after your prone extension is your lat pulls, but just making sure that your legs aren't lifting off the floor. You're taking your time and you're just getting into your body. There's that glute activation here, but it's only about that 30% as well as your Kegels. Then you're going to take a rolled up towel or a cloth just to make sure that your chin is tucked. Just like in the last exercise, we're really turning off the neck in this one. You're going to reach your hands overhead, thumb is up, make sure there's no impingement happening in your shoulders. Same activation through the inner thigh, the glutes, and the abs here. You're going to take a nice slow breath in as you reach those arms above your head, and exhale as you really squeeze those elbows down by your side and try and eliminate all that air as you're getting those abs to contract. Inhale and exhale. Good. Breathing it out as you pull it down and squeeze, pulling that abdomen up and in, keeping the chin tucked, and allowing yourself to really think about those serratus and lat muscles that you're using to control that movement of keeping your shoulders down away from your earlobes. So we're not lifting those shoulders up, you're keeping them nice and relaxed. You shouldn't feel anything. That's why we have the chin tucked and the cloth. You are done.